Okay, so we're going on to Mishlei Yud Daled Yud Tes. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. I was just about to say that this might be a Mishlei Chavrusa, but now it's whatever you want to call the Chavura, but whatever triple. Okay, Shahu Raim Lifnei Tovim Urashaim Al Sha'arei Tzadik. Okay, how do you translate that?
The bad converse before the good.
Oh, so this is Shahu, not Sahu.
Oh.
I put the translation here because I
Yeah.
figured that might not be obvious.
Okay, the bad bow before the good.
Yep, the bad bow before the good.
And the wicked on the gates of the tzaddik.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, so that's the literal translation. The bad bow before the good, and the wicked on the gates of the tzaddik. And here we have the BDB says is from Shachach, which I never really knew that is the shoresh of like Mishtachaveh. I don't know what happens grammatically to the second ches, and I can't think of any conjugation that like has two cheses, but whatever. So bow, be bowed down or crouch. Okay, so let's say bow or are bowed down or crouch. Okay, we'll just include those. Okay, Metzudas says shachus inyan kfifa of hashpala. Okay, so he does not learn it as like mishtachaveh. Shachu is they are bent over and lowered, or like kofef is is to bend, but like to I think bend by force. V'hashpala and lowered. Kamo vayishach adam. Okay, I'm not familiar with that pasuk enough to comment on it. Sadigon says ro'ui shiash pilu atmam haraim lifnei tovim. So that's very interesting. It is befitting for the bad to lower themselves before the good. The harashaim al shari tzadikim, and the wicked on the gates of the righteous. And you notice he just translates. He pluralizes tzaddik to tzaddikim, so it's not necessarily a singular. Targum says nefalu bishe kadam tave. So I'm going to go ahead and assume, I didn't look it up, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that nefalu is not a straight translation of shahu, but it's an interpretation. So nefalu is bishe kadam tave, so the bad fall before the good. V'rashi nitdun. Oh, that's interesting also. Nitdun bataraya de tzadike. And the wicked nitdun. I'm going to look that up. I don't even know what the conjugation is. Nitdun. It might not be under here. Natad. Tadu. Tada. Tada is, yeah, I'm not sure what that conjugation is, so I'm not going to be able to look it up. Okay, fine. So we unfortunately can't look at that. Okay, and then then we have the Malbim who's going to interpret the difference between Rhyme and Rashaim, but let's hold off on that. Okay, our scroll says very interestingly, evildoers will grovel before good people. Now that grovel, I don't know if that's like their interpretation of what Metzudas Tzion said, like they'll make themselves kafuf and mashpil themselves, or if this is like based on a different interpretation of shachu, but we'll keep this in case it's different. Allah Torah says the evil bow down before the good, and the wicked at the gates of the righteous. That's like ours. And then the JPS non-gender sensitive says evil men are brought low before the good, so are the wicked at the gates of the righteous. Okay, that's similar enough. All right, so let's just preserve our translation, Sadigon, and the art scroll. So we have the bad bow or bow down or crouch before the good, and the wicked on the gates of the tzaddik. I'm going to go ahead and say at the gates of the tzaddik, because I think all here is means at. You don't bow down on the gate. And then Sadigon says it is befitting for the bad to lower themselves before the good, and the wicked on the gates of the righteous. I guess at the gates of the righteous, and art scroll, evildoers will grovel before the good people, and the wicked at the gates of the righteous one. Okay. So what do we got? Questions?
What are Ra'im Tovim Rashaim Tzadikim?
Yeah. So what are Ra'im v'tovim tzadik Rishayim v'tzadikim. And then like I'm going to go ahead and just ask here, are the two halves just repeating the same idea in different words, or is there a nuance that yields a different meaning? Yeah.
Yeah, can I say something on that?
Yeah.
Also, not necessarily a question, but just of note that specifically, I mean, Ra'im and Tovim are not choosing specific characters. When like yes, you were talking about like why Arum versus say like a tzaddik, and now here it's actually specifically, it seems specifically, very broad, general. Like, I mean, who falls under the category of Ra'im? Is that like any of the bad characters we've been talking about? In Tovim, like any of the good?
Well, let's ask that as well. And are Ra'im v'Tovim actual Mishleic archetypes, or are they all encompassing terms that could refer to lots of good and bad Mishlei archetypes? Yeah. Okay.
I have a different question.
Yeah.
Is this true?
Okay, is this true? So that's, I think, what Satyakon is referring to, right? Or is picking up on, is he's saying it's not true, but it should be, right? It would be proper. So I'll say like, actually, let's actually break this down. Is this pasuk descriptive or prescriptive? Okay, that's not how you spell prescriptive. Like Satyakon. Okay, if the former, is it true? And if the latter, I'll just say shoulds are nice, but what is this? Why is this pasuk? But given the reality, why does the pasuk tell us what should be the case? Right? Like, yeah. Of course, Rishayim should bow at the gates of the tzaddikim, but like that's never going to happen. So why should it tell us this? So in other words, you have a problem with the descriptive in that it doesn't seem true, and you have a problem with the prescriptive in that it doesn't seem to have a purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, the Rishayim are definitely not going to listen to this pasuk.
Yes, right. So this raises the question also of who is the audience of this pasuk. And then what is the practical application?
Yeah, and for the audience, I could, I think there's, it could be the Ra'im / Rishayim, it could be the Tovim / Tzadikim, or it could be some other party.
Right. So who's the audience of this pasuk, given the fact that the Ra'im Rishayim are not likely to listen? Yeah. So is this for the Tovim, the Tzadikim, or some other party? Okay. Also, we have to ask, practically speaking, what does shahu mean in this context? And then I'd also say, what are the sha'arim? What are the sha'arei tzaddik? What are the sha'arei tzaddik? Yeah. And I guess also I'd say like, I guess if this is this location is integral to the idea, why isn't a location mentioned in the first half? And if it's not, if it's not integral, why specify it? Okay, I feel like those are the main questions.
I have a theory.
Okay, so there's one more question actually, which is, what are the benefits and the consequences here? And then I'm going to go ahead and add as a question. I'm going to actually convert this into a separate question. So what is the relationship between the two halves of pasuk? Right, they don't seem opposites. They don't seem like opposites. And then are the two halves just repeating the same idea in different words, or is there nuance that yields a different meaning? Yeah, let's actually, since we have the luxury to do so, let's just take a moment to think. I need a bit of time to think. I also have a thought. Okay, yeah, go ahead. You want to say yours?
Yeah, my thought is this is false.
Okay.
And it's that it's doing this to like call out a havamina that people
Yeah.
have, which is there's this feeling that bad people will like ultimately will recognize the good people and be like, okay, you know what, you're right. And there's like a part of, I think it's a part of the person that like wants that.
Yeah.
And so it's just like saying it explicitly, like what this feeling,
Yeah.
because when you call it out, you're like, okay, this actually is obviously not true.
Yeah.
Like that. You might want the wicked to bow before the righteous, but like it's just not what happens.
Right. Okay, good. So we know that this is a category of Mishlei pasuk where it's stating it's stating a falsehood in order to call your attention to the fantasy. Right. So now the question is, what would be the decision making, the practical application? Like, what mistake would a person make if he had this premise, and then what's going to be different if he doesn't, if he realizes that.
I think anything where he thinks that the Russia is going to yield to him because he's right. I think that's like
Okay. All right. So the practical application is that the tovim, the tzaddikim, shouldn't proceed on the assumption that the ra'im urashayim will how do you say it? Will yield to him? Yeah, yield to him. Yield to them and acknowledge that they're in the right. Yeah. Right. That's definitely a mistake. Right. Yeah. And I think that there are different causes of this. I think that isn't there a fallacy? I mean, I know names of fallacies are not necessarily a thing, but isn't there a just world fallacy?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. So the just world fallacy, the just world hypothesis, or just world fallacy, according to Wikipedia, is the cognitive bias that assumes that people will get what they deserve, that actions will necessarily have morally fair and fitting consequences for the actor. Right. So that could be, I'm just going to add this here. This might stem from the just world fallacy, or a Jewish equivalent, based on certain assumptions about how Hashem rewards tzaddikim. Right? When in reality, okay, and I understand that I'm going to quote this, and it's not so simple, but there's a member of Chazal, schar b'hai alma leka, b'hai alma leka, meaning there's no reward in this world, right? All the reward is in olam haba, so like assuming that like things are going to play out the way that you want in this world is not necessarily the case, So it could stem from just world fallacy, or from I had another thing from like a naive belief in the innate goodness of all people, right? Like this Russia is gonna one day see the light, he's gonna come around, or from like a particular misjudgment of a particular Russia. Okay, so like I was at a lecture last night about FDR and the Holocaust and the state of Israel, and there were signs that were held up, there were photos of like protests that happened at the time, and like all of these people, like advocating for like making peace with Hitler, like just an assumption about like how like people know that Rishayim are bent on power and domination, but like no, but we can make peace with this guy, like that. It could be a severe like misjudgment of particular Russia, okay, or other causes. Okay, so in other words, I don't think this pasuk is taking a stance on a particular cause. Actually, let's say, or if you are the tzaddik, okay, a naive overconfidence in your own influence, or other causes. Okay. Yeah, David.
Yeah, I think to go along with this also, I think I like the idea. I think both in the in a practical, like how things are going to work out realm. I've also experienced this in the realm of, say, argumentation or discussion of ideas, where I can definitely, I've seen for myself and other people that you kind of just assume like, oh, because I'm arguing for the truth, then my argument is what's going to come forth and
Right.
and prevail. I know that definitely, I mean, speaking of what's happening in Israel, I know that was like a lot of things shortly after October 7th, and even now of not arguing with fools. And that the Mark Twain line that Chaim likes to quote of don't argue with fools because they'll bring you down to your level and then beat you with experience. Like that's not because you're wrong. That's not why you're losing out here and why the truth isn't. It just actually, yeah, you can't just assume that because this is true, it's going to actually like have the light be shed just from it itself.
Right. Yeah, that's a great another great example, and yeah, good idiom, or good quotation. Okay.
Yeah. I just want to talk out another, just like how, like what the two halves of the pasuk are doing.
Yeah, sure. I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
I think the first one is, I'd say like, is this, the second half is elaborating on it, which is I think that the shiur tzaddik and where the tzaddik sits, and that's like the Rishayim are like going out of their way to come to the gate of the tzaddik to bow.
Okay. So the second half is emphasizing the scope of the delusion, namely that the Russia will go out of his way to bow at the shiur tzaddik, okay, where the tzaddik sits, yeah. And then any theories as to why it says Ra'im v'tovim and Rishayim and Tzaddikim?
I think it's just going as broad as possible. That's my theory.
All right, so perhaps the difference between the two halves is just trying to cover the whole spectrum. See, I'm inclined to think of it to make the application as broad as possible. I'm inclined to think of it as these are two like categorical differences that, like, for example, maybe Ra'im and Tovim is in matters of like, I'm not saying this like I'm committed to this interpretation, but let's say like Ra'im and Tovim is in matters of ethical conduct for yourself, whereas Rishayim and Tzaddikim is in terms of like relationship to other people, or Ra'im and Tovim is like being Adam Lamakom or being Adam Lechavero, and Rishayim and Tzaddikim is being Adam Lechavero, or something like some sort of categorical thing. I think it's the same point that you're getting to, but yeah, I don't think it's two different ideas. Okay, I had an idea, or anyone else have an idea, or anyone?
Yeah, I also had an idea.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm happy for you to go first, unless you specifically
go
want
ahead.
me. Okay. Okay. So I like what Isaac was saying. A different idea in which this actually would be true.
Yeah.
Insofar as if you're going to be calling these Ra'im, Tovim, Risham, Tzaddikim, insofar as like Mishlei thinking,
Yeah.
that this is just saying that so people who actually like don't think about things don't think through things and don't act Mishleically, even if in the moment it seems like they may be getting a benefit to doing what they're doing, in the end they will wind up coming to those who are practicing Mishleic thinking.
Okay, so I was gonna say an idea like that also. So I'm gonna say my idea, and then you can tell me if this is if I'm saying the same thing or different.
Okay.
I was gonna connect it to yesterday's pasuk. So yesterday's pasuk. Oh wait, let me see if I can find it. Mishlei 14:18 analysis notes. Yesterday's pasuk was Nachlu Pesayim Ivelis Va'arumim Yachtiru Das. Naive simpletons will inherit foolishness, and cunning people will be crowned with knowledge. And we had an idea. Let's see. Can't remember which of the 6 ideas we had. Hold on. Didn't we have an idea? Oh yeah, Mitzvahs David, right? So Psaim cling to their foolishness, which implies a positive attachment, not just a default sliding into. Whereas Arumim cling to their knowledge, which become a glorifying crown, which means that the results are of their orma are superior and recognized by people. Okay, so what I want to say is possibly this is connected to yesterday's pasuk, which said that the arum will ultimately succeed, and the success will be recognized, okay, like a crown. Okay, when this happens, then the Ra'im and Rishayim will be forced to bow to the Tzaddik, to the Tovim, the Tzaddikim. So, like, obviously, this does not happen across the board, but the way I would answer Isaac's question is I'd say this is limited to cases in which the results are A, undeniably good, and B, undeniably linked to the decisions made by the Tovim V'Raim. So like we're talking, let's say like in a company, let's say like, you have a Rasha who's like trying to take things in his own direction for his own self-glorification. And then the tzaddik like makes some sort of plan that is, that is for the good of the system. And then it ends up making the company like extremely prosperous. The Russia is going to have to bow to the tzaddik in that case, because he's gonna begrudgingly realize like, okay, what this guy did, he did it based on his values and it actually turned out good, and I can't like claim that what I would have done is going to reach the same results or is going to be better. So that's my idea. But David, say what you wanted to say again, and we'll hash it out and see if it's the same or different.
Yeah, I think the two work very smoothly together. I mean,
okay, yeah, say what you said.
I was saying that in a practical manner also, I was saying the same thing, but that someone who does not act with good Mishlei thinking will in the end have to come and be subservient to those who do practice Mishlei thinking.
Okay. So someone who doesn't rely on Mishlei thinking will in the end have to become subservient to someone who does practice it. Yeah, I think the advantage of my interpretation is I am limiting it to cases where I think it can work out. And I do think that, like there are definitely cases where the tzaddik has clear success, but the Russia could still like deny that it came from his own efforts. And so I'd say like it's limited to these cases.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Also, it is very smooth, I think, following how you attached it to the previous pasuk.
Yeah. And I think I might have gotten that just by when we went to the Meiri yesterday, he did say that the two were connected. So I might have just like started thinking along those lines. Okay, let's look at meforshim here. Okay, we are at 19. Okay, so the Mitzus David says Shachu Besof Hadavar, at the end of the matter, Yihyu Haraim Kfufim V'Nichnaim Lifnei Hatovim. Or Shain Yisababu al Share Beis Tzadik Lishol Lechem. Okay, so at the end, then the Ra'im will be subjugated and submissive before the good, and the Rishayim will circle around the gates of the house of the tzaddik to ask for bread. Okay, does this give us any? I mean, I'd be tempted to say what Isaac said, which is this is just not true, Isaiah.
I mean, it could be talking about like the very end, like when Hashem actually judges people, then this will happen in the world to come. I don't know how that
that's
would
hard
be
to say for him,
relevant to Mishlei.
Of the base tzaddik asking for bread, right?
True.
Yeah. And even if you say the world to come in the sense of, even if you don't hold like the Rambam and you hold that Olam Haba is Yemos Mashiach, it's also difficult because the Rishayim there seemingly will be all destroyed or done to Shuva, and there will not be like begging for bread. So I don't think it could work in either framework of Olam Haba, unfortunately. Okay, let's look at Rבינו Yona. I'm not. We'll keep this in the back of our minds because I think, given everything we've set up until now, I think we have a hard time seeing how this is going to come true. Okay, Rבינו Yona. This is him. Yeah. Okay. Hine hodia ki ha'arumim misparim b'das. Okay, so he is connecting it to the previous one, even though he doesn't do so explicitly. He says the arumim, the cunning, will be glorify themselves with knowledge. V'lo yechushu la'asher ein hapsaim makirim b'tzvi tifartam. And they will not be concerned with the fact that the Pasaim do not recognize their splendor. V'ata yodianu, and now this is telling us ki afal pisha harashayim nichbadim ba'olam lif'amin, that even though the wicked are revered or exalted in this world sometimes, v'darkam salcha, and their ways are successful, kamehim shvelim v'shachim la'afar be'ene hatovim. Many of them will be bowed down and lowered in the eyes of those who are good. Uvrov takvam uvkodam lo hadar lahem lifnei hatovim. And in their great power and glory, there will not be any glory for them, any majesty for them in front of the good. Okay, I don't know what he's saying. Lifnei tovim is inyana be'ene hatovim. So in the eyes of the good. Okay, there we go. So in the eyes of the good, it won't be good. And he quotes a pasuk from Esther, v'kasher hadavar lifnei hamelach. Sorry, v'kasher hadavar lifnei hamelach. The matter will be good in the eyes of the king. Urushaim al sharei tzadik. He says v'shachu Moshe atzmo v'acher imo. So okay, so shachu is going on both halves. V'shachu harushaim. Hold on. Shachu haraim b'mamad hatadikim uv'chabrasam. They will bow in the place where the tzadikim stand and in their company. V'chein meshive milchama sha'ara uv'shar lo pascha pihu. B'makom va'ed chachamim, in the place where they gather. Yeah. Okay, so what is he saying? So it seemed, I mean, when I saw the word Esther, I thought he was going to quote the Haman, that, Haman, I'll just quote it. We're almost at that season, less than 30 days away. Where is it? It's at the end of 6. Yeah. Vaisaper, no. Yeah. Vayikach Haman es alavush es asus vayalbesh es Mordechai v'yarkib. No, that's too far. At the end of 5. Where is it? Oh yeah, it's at the end of 5. V'yomer Haman ha'af lo hivya Esther hamalka im hamelech el hamishta asher asa ki imosi v'gam l'machar ani kru la im hamelech. Okay, sorry, I started one too late. This is in Esther 5, 11, 12, and 13. Vaysaper lahem Haman es kvod ashrov rov banav ve'es kol asher gidalo hamelech ve'es asher nisa'o al hasarim ba'avdei hamelech. So Haman, I'll just read him in Novetsky's translation. Haman recounted to them his glorious riches and his many sons, and all about how the king had promoted him and how he exalted him above the king's officers and servants. V'yomer Haman af lo hevia Esther hamalka im hamelech el hamishte asher asasa ki im osi v'gam l'machar ani karu la im hamelech. And Haman said, Queen Esther did not even bring with the king anyone to the feast which she prepared except for me, and tomorrow too I am invited to her with the king. And yet all of this is worthless to me every time I see that Mordechai, the Judean, is sitting at the king's gate. And that was prompted by the fact that a couple of pasukim earlier, when Haman leaves, Haman left that day happy and merry of heart. But v'chiraos Haman es Mordechai b'shar hamelech v'lo kam v'lo zami menu v'yimale Haman al Mordechai chema. When Haman saw Mordechai at the king's gate, he did not rise and he did not tremble before him. Haman was filled with wrath against Mordechai. So I think that seems to be the kind of the direction Rבינו Yona is taking, which is that the Pesayim don't recognize the good of the Arumim, and the Tovim and Tzadikim don't recognize the Hatzlacha of the Rashayim. They just realize like this is just temporary, or this is a fluke, or this is this is like not good, an objective good, and that bothers them. So how's that in the pasuk though? So it's saying that the Rashayim the Raim are low in the eyes of the Tovim, and then the Rashayim in the company of the Tzadikim. So the question is so that answers our descriptive question, right? Not that they should bow down, but they are low in their eyes. So let me just start writing this summary here, and then we have to flesh it out a little bit. Okay, so Rבינו Yona is saying the Raim are lowly in the eyes of the Tovim, and the Rashayim in the company of the Tzadikim. Okay, because the good guys realize that the bad guy's success is short-lived, is not real, is going to harm them, etc. So the question is, what is the point of telling us this? Yeah, David.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be great advice to someone who's looking at the Russia and doesn't want to be stuck drawn like following after his ways, but he still is drawn to it. And I think to recognize that those who know more, who are wiser, the tzaddikim, aren't just they think nothing of it. I think that is a very powerful thing to know that even though I, with my lack of knowledge and my easily getting drawn, I'm still looking to follow after this Russia, but knowing the people who are smarter than me just think nothing of it, I think it would be like a very, very powerful thing to like, what would a tzaddik be thinking here?
Okay, good. I think that's an excellent answer. So this is addressed to someone who admires or is jealous of the Russia when he sees that the tovim, the tzaddikim, are totally unimpressed by these bad guys. He will think twice about whether whether his own admiration is warranted, and will hopefully start to see things from the correct perspective. Yeah, Isaiah?
I'm wondering if you could answer like from a more cynical perspective. Like maybe this is advice to like a warning like Tovim and Tzaddikim of a mistake they might make. To think that like because this is true in like the more like a little bit of a more longer term sense, but then they might not be aware of harms that Rishayim and Rayim might like cause to them in the short term. Like even though the long term they're going to like fall, like in the very short term, like a Russia might like harm a tzaddik, and if a tzaddik is like looking at this guy and thinking he's like a lowly guy, he's not going to be so wary of that.
Okay, good. So that's that actually fits in very well with Isaac's interpretation, which we said before you came on. So Isaac said that this is expressing a false idea, and Isaac was saying it's a warning to the tzaddikim in terms of their or even a regular person in terms of like their trust that good will prevail. But I think yours is is another good angle. Alternatively, this is a warning to the tzaddikim that they shouldn't underestimate the power that the Ra'im Urushaim have when they are enjoying success and esteem in the eyes of others. Okay, and they can do real harm to the tzaddikim and to the good. Yeah, that's good.
Can you go back to David's explanation?
Yeah. David's?
Yeah. I have another idea about what about who the audience is, which is someone who's seeing the fact that the that the Arum doesn't is not respected by the Pesi.
Yeah.
And it's like, so that they want someone who wants to be the they want they want to be the Arum, but they don't like the fact that they lose the respect of the Pesi.
Yeah.
But so what this is saying is, you'll lose the respect of the Pesi, but you'll gain the respect of the Tov.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
So that even the thing that you want, which is respect, you're only going to get respect from some people, and then this way you're getting respect from the people that you respect.
Okay, good. So Mishlei's telling him that. So alternatively, someone who sees that the armor isn't recognized by the Pesi and wants that respect for himself, Mishlei's telling him that either way there will be a group of people who don't respect you, but if you follow the way of the Tovim, the Tzaddikim, then you'll earn their respect, and that respect is worth more than the respect of the Psaim. Okay, and I'll add, even though the latter are far greater in number. Yeah, that's really that's really good and take on the Rביnu Yona. I like that.
I would say both far greater in number, and then also insofar as like far louder with their admiration. I mean, Tovim and good people, I think, generally aren't like talking a lot about other people and making it a big deal. I think that there's also like more of a draw when you know that your name is going to be like constantly said in the good from those pitayim versus like from good people who more just keep things more internal.
Yep, definitely. Yeah. And again, you see this in, I added here semi-jokingly that they get more views on their content. I mean, this is a big pull in any area of content creators where like they could do stuff to get views, or they could do stuff that is objectively like, good, and like they don't go, you're gonna have to make that's a crossroads, I mean, it's very hard to get something that is doing objective good and it has popularity,
Yeah, it's kind of like which would you rather, like 10,000 likes or like a nod of respect from the Rambam,
Exactly. Yep, exactly. Yep. I assume that was an intentional reference to the Rambam's quote about the 10,000 fools.
No, it wasn't. No.
Oh, okay. So we have to put that then.
Okay, yeah.
This is on my wall. I mean, it's not. He's not saying the same thing, but it is a good reference. Wait. Yeah. Because you said 10,000. Ram says, when I have a difficult subject before me, when I find the road narrow and can see no other way of teaching a well-established truth except by pleasing one intelligent man and displeasing 10,000 fools, I prefer to address myself to the one man and to take no notice whatsoever of the condemnation of the multitude. I prefer to extricate that intelligent man from his embarrassment and show him the cause of his perplexity so that he may attain perfection and be at peace. So you just happen to use the same number by yeah. Okay, good. I like that. All right, let's check out the Malbim. Okay,
Where's that Rambam quote from?
it's from the More, and I can get a specific citation, but it was not on that document. So
Okay, more is good.
Yeah. Okay, so we're still in Esther. Mishlei 14, 19. Okay, so the Malbim in his Bir Hamilo says Raim Berushaim. Hara kologam hara aide machshavas minus umidosav haraim. So Ra includes evil that comes about from heretical thoughts and bad midos. V'harasha hu hamarshia befoal bein bnei adam l'makom bein adam l'chaver. Okay, so that's like what I was saying, is that Raim is like internal bad, and Rishaim is external bad, whether it's vis-a-vis God or other people. V'shiru Rishaim shachu al shari tzadikim. Okay, so then he interprets it. Amar Hagam Shahara Misnagid al Tov Harasha al Tzadik. He says, even though the Ra opposes the Tov and the Rasha the Tzadik, B'chozos K'sheba Hara Lifnei HaTov Yishocheach Lefanav V'yichne Lo. Nevertheless, when the evil person comes before the good person, he will bow before him and be submissive to him. V'chein Roshaim K'shevo al Shari Tzadik Yishachu Lefanav. Okay, I don't know what that means. V'teva harash lo yamod b'fnei hatov kasher lo yamod hachoshech lifnei haor. All right, that doesn't seem true. That's our problem from before. Let's look at the Hoyel Moshe.
Wait, do we look at the Meiri?
We didn't look at the Meiri. Correct. Thanks. Meiri says, okay. Hu dava gamkin lamasha lafanav. Okay, so he's going to connect it to the pasuk. Oh, sorry, he connects it to the pasuk before it. Kiaksil hamis aber. Okay, actually, no, he's connecting it to several psukim before it. Uksara paim, so the fool who is misaber, this is a reference to 16. So chacham yarei v'sar meira uksil misaber uboteach. The chacham fears and turns away from harm, and the ksil makes himself angry and is confident. And then 17, ksar apaim yasa iveles, someone who's short-tempered will act foolishly. V'ish mezimos yisaneh, and a man of strategies will be hated. So that guy, that ksil, who kore osam pisaim, he's calling them pisaim. That's strange. Footnote 124. Anashim asher in datam shlema lahaskil, people whose minds are not complete to be intelligent. V'yita libam b'dvarim b'tchilas inyanim, and they err based on like their first impressions. Yikru pisaim. I don't know, he's calling the Ramban and Shmos Chaf Beis Tezvav. Vahis Nahagus Hamis Aber Uksar Apayim Novas Midea Hasera. It sounds like he's saying that the ksil has a pesi-like quality, right? Because the ksil is responding to the immediate. Okay, I mean, it's funny he's saying it calls them Pesayim. Okay, that's strange. Okay, then Uvesofa min chalu ivelis. At the end, they will inherit ivelis. Rotzlamar yochlu piryo. They will eat the fruits of ivelis. Okay, the consequences. Arumim hema chacham hayare v'sar meira v'ish mezimos. Okay, so he is loving all these into one category. The ksil and the pesi and the ivelis, and the chacham and the yarei sar meira and the ish mezimos and the arum. So that guy, Ladati Kara Arumim, he's called Arumim. It's not like we said where Arum is like someone who sees through the distortions of the emotions. V'amar Shehim Yachtiru Das. It says that they will be crowned with knowledge. Kolomar Ya'amidu Hadas Becheskas Mukhtar Umshuvak. So they will crown knowledge. They will establish knowledge in the station of being crowned and praiseworthy. Because when people see the success that comes from their conduct, Yodu v'yakiru sheva hadas v'chachma. They will recognize and acknowledge the praise of knowledge and chachma. Kamosha amru zal ra'isim ploni shalama Torah. Look at Ploni, who learned Torah. Kama mutukani masav, kamanaim. How perfected are his actions and how beautiful they are. Ashrei aviv shagidlo. Ashrei rabba shalom chachma. Praiseworthy is the father who raised him. Praiseworthy is the rav who taught him chachma. So he's saying that there is a certain way where people will recognize that this comes from your chachma. That's connected to what it says afterwards. They will be subjugated and acknowledge their stature. And sometimes when they recognize the benefit and their kavod that they get, they will be diligently waiting upon the gates of the tzaddikim to take Torah from their mouths. Okay, so that's like I think that is very close to what David and I were saying, is that there is a certain place where they will, where the fools can recognize the stature and glory of Mishlei based on the results. And then they might, want to actually partake of that. And then he says, the Efshal Farish Nachlu Psaim Iveles Klomer Shihis. What? I don't know if that was accidental unmuted.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Okay.
I was just gonna say one thing. That he does seem to be taking a little bit different. He's actually saying that Yiknu Keter Da La'atzmam, which seems like he's saying definitely more than I would have posited, that they actually want to go like fully around to not just interest in the result, but interest in the da itself, like interest in the method there. Now, Shmi, I would have thought like, okay, when Russia sees the tzaddik be successful, the only thing he's interested in is the success of the tzaddik, not actually doing what the tzaddik did to get there. He sounds like he's actually even saying like as taking a step further.
Yeah, so what I don't know, what's less clear to me here is let's see. Yeah, I mean, you're right. He does seem to be saying, certainly for the Rhyme Lifnei Tovim, but he does seem to be saying that even the Rishaim will do this. That is an interesting thing. Yeah.
Well, I think he wants the success, and so if he sees that this is the mechanism to get the success, he's
right.
Like, if he can see clearly that is the mechanism, then he'll do that.
Right. That is interesting. It's just that to me, I have not really seen anyone acknowledge that the Russia will do that. That seems a little uncharacteristic of the Russia. Yeah, I've definitely seen for the Ra, for someone who's like not full blown Russia. The Efshar Lefarish Nachlu Psaim Ivelas Klomer Shehis Achazu Benachalas Hamelach Hazaken. Okay, so some say that they inherit Ivelas means that they inherit the Ivelas of the Yetzer Hara. Okay. Or the inheritance of the Yetzer Hara. Arumim Yachtu Yamlichu Hadas V'hu Yelad Miskein. Okay, and that's the poor youth. Okay, this is the mashal for the Yetzer Hara. He's Gabruso Shahu Rhyme with Nitovim Vishtachu Lahem. Okay, that's taking it metaphorically. It's fine he didn't introduce this with the Derech Nister, because this is his classical Derech Nister. Okay, but I think we got good interpretations for now. So let's quickly review. So we have Isaac's approach and Isaiah's approach, which say that the pasuk is expressing a descriptive falsehood, saying that the Rishaim will bow to the tzaddikim, and Isaac is saying that's a big mistake to think that the wicked will ultimately come around. The mistake could come from many sources, but don't count on that. And Isaiah is saying that you might even let down your guard and misjudge the amount of power that the Russia is going to have when he is ascendant. Then David and I are saying that this is, and I guess the Meiri also, that this is talking about the Ra'im and maybe even the Rishaim can recognize, or maybe just the regular people can recognize Mishlei's success when they see the results, and that might make them emulate it. And Isaac's point was that this is talking to someone who wants admiration, And if you combine this with the last pasuk and you assume, like Rבינו Yona does, that the Pesayim will not recognize the greatness of the Arum, then it's saying that, well, whose admiration do you want? Do you want the admiration of the Chachamim and Tzadikim or of the Pesayim? And then we have Rבינו Yona, who's saying that similarly that this is aimed at someone who is like envious of the Rasha and the admiration that he gets and the success that he gets, and he's saying, no, I'd rather be admired by the tzaddik, or that's what it's trying to get him to have. Okay, good, nice. We got 2 ideas in 2 days. Good pace, and good ideas. Alrighty, that was nice. And Bli Neder next week will be in person.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
For coming. Bye.